Hello, I'm Clark Crawford, and welcome back to Clark Crawford Sports. Today, I'm going to be discussing what went wrong for the Astros over the weekend. They are now 0-4. What's going on with the season? Is it time to panic? Well, let me answer that for you now. It's not. It's only 4 games in. There's still 158 games left to play. I'll also be talking about the positives, the negatives, and a breakdown of the upcoming Blue Jays series at Minute Maid Park, which starts tonight through Wednesday. So with that being said, let's get started. As I previously mentioned, the Astros are off to an 0-4 start. They scored 11 runs in 4 games, getting swept by the New York Yankees. 11 runs in 4 games, most of the time, is not going to win you very many games. Now, it's safe to say almost everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, other than pretty much another player getting hurt, which the Astros have plenty of pitchers hurt as it goes right now anyways. The Astros got swept by the Yankees, who have now won 7 straight games at Minute Maid Park. That's a problem. The problem is Juan Soto continues to haunt the Astros, as he has since the 2019 World Series. The Astros lose again at home. They're now 7-26 at Minute Maid Park since August 13th, 2023. That is abysmal. The Yankees have owned them at home, as well as pretty much every other team has, since August of 2023 when they played the Astros in their home ballpark. Start out like this at home and you don't fix it real quick. I know it's only been 4 games, but if you play this poorly at home all season, you're definitely not going to be in the playoffs. So there's still time, but the Astros have another bad series against the Blue Jays, which I'll talk about here coming up in a little bit. They're really going to be in a world of hurt. Let's start with the positives from the weekend series against the Yankees. There's a few guys I want to highlight, and those are as followed. Jose Altuve, Jeremy Pena, and Yainer Diaz all had 6 hits. Those 3 names carried the offense, but unfortunately, it wasn't nearly enough. All 3 of them had 6 hits. Jose Altuve hit a solo homer on Sunday, which was yesterday, and Pena and Diaz hit the ball well all weekend like Altuve did. The other positive from the weekend, or positives, really the only ones from the pitching side, were Christian Javier went 6 scoreless innings on Friday night, being the game with the 1-0 lead, and then the bullpen goes and gives up 7 runs in the final 3 innings, and the Astros lost that game 7-1. The other positive, the only issue was he only went 4 innings, was Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown went 4 scoreless innings on Saturday. The problem was his pitch count got so high in the mid-90s, they pulled him after 4 innings. And then, of course, the bullpen went on to implode, and the Astros lost that game as well. So those are really the only positives from the pitching side. J.P. France pitched solid, but it wasn't good enough for a win. Amber Valdez was, if it weren't for a couple double play balls, his pitching line would have looked a lot worse than it really was. Now, let's move on to the negatives from the weekend. Pretty much every other pitcher not named Hunter Brown or Christian Javier, with J.P. France, as I mentioned, he was the 3rd best pitcher over the weekend, struggled mightily. The Astros handed multiple leads over to the bullpen, but every pitcher out of the pen had at least 1 bad outing over the weekend. The offense failed time and time again as they had runners on a ton of innings, but just couldn't seem to bring them home in the moments that mattered most. They had a couple of shots late in the game in just about every game except Friday, but they couldn't bring the runs home when they mattered most late in the game. You have to have situational hitting in order to win in baseball most of the time, unless you're already obviously up by a ton of runs. Astros offense struggled. A few of the problems over the weekend were as followed. Jose Abreu went 0 for 11. He was just a disaster, along with Yordan Alvarez, probably the 2 worst hitters over the weekend for the Astros. Yordan went 2 for 17 with no RBIs. They moved him up in the order to get more at-bats, and he goes 2 for 17. You can't do that. Yordan's getting paid way too much money, and he's got to figure it out. I understand it's 1 bad series, but come on, Yordan, you're better than this. I understand the Yankees are a good team, but in no reason should Yordan Alvarez have a 2 for 17 stretch. I understand maybe a 4 for 17 or a 5 for 17, but come on, 2 for 17. Alvarez needs to wake up if the Astros offense is going to go anywhere this season. And, of course, there were other names who struggled. Kyle Tucker had 1 good game on Sunday, but his other 3 games were bad. Bregman was horrific the whole weekend. And Jake Myers led off his time in 2024 with the homer in Thursday's game, but then proceeded to go 0 for 7 the rest of the weekend. Chas McCormick had a couple of RBIs in the first game, and then Chas went ice cold, only recording 1 hit the rest of the way. So there are a lot more negatives than positives. Obviously, it's just 4 games, and I'm not going to panic. As I said earlier in the video, there's 158 games left on the season, but if the Astros want to get something started sooner rather than later, tonight would be a good time in the opening game against the Blue Jays to get their first win of the season and then maybe hopefully put together a win streak. So as I mentioned, the Toronto Blue Jays are coming to town. Toronto comes into town with the 2-2 record, and a quick preview of the pitching matchups and what to look for in the series and how the Astros could maybe pull off a couple of wins if they hit the ball better and obviously pitch better. Monday's matchup will feature Bowden Francis versus Ronel Blanco, 2 really unproven pitchers in the major leagues, and both could really use a stellar performance to really jumpstart their career. So tonight's going to be an intriguing matchup between 2 mostly unproven pitchers in the major leagues. We'll see who comes out on top in tonight's number 5 starters matchup. Tuesday night, both squads will send out their opening day starters. Jose Barrios versus Southpaw Framber Valdez. Now, Framber, we all know what he's capable of, and Jose Barrios is a former All-Star, as Framber is for the Astros. So 2 former All-Stars squaring off. We'll see who gets the best of who. Both pitchers more than capable of pitching well, but they've sure had their ups and downs the last few years. And we'll see who comes out on top between the matchup of the opening day starters. Wednesday night, in what could be the rubber match of the series, is going to be a battle of the right-handed pitchers, Chris Bassett for the Blue Jays against Christian Javier of the Astros. Javier possibly coming off of, other than the no-hitter he was a part of in the World Series in 2022, possibly his best start as an Astro, if you ask me, other than obviously that World Series start. Javier was electric, going 6 shutout innings, and what more can you say? He was easily the Astros' best pitcher of the weekend series against the Yankees. The Astros are hoping Javier, who looked great on Friday night, continues that because they're sure going to need it with all their pitching injuries to start the year. As I mentioned in my previous video, which I highlighted the Astros-Yankee series, go back and watch it. And also, as I mentioned here, the Astros have several injuries that they need their pitchers to really hold it down until hopefully they can get some reinforcements in. As for the rest of the Astros-Blue Jays series, it could potentially turn into a slugfest. I mean, the Blue Jays have plenty of good hitters in their lineup. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the son of Vladimir Guerrero. They've got Kevin Biggio, who is having an okay start to the year. He's kind of been a prove-it year for the Blue Jays. Yes, that's Craig Biggio's son. Of course, they have Bo Bichette, and the recently signed in the offseason Justin Turner, who can really light up an offense and light a fire under them. He's been a good hitter for a long time. And, of course, former Astros fan favorite George Springer is in their lineup as well. And they also have Dalton Varsho. So Toronto's got plenty of heavy hitters who could really put a world of hurt on the Astros pitching staff. So they really need it, obviously, to pitch well to win the series. But Toronto has the potential to put up a ton of runs, and they're probably going to be one of the top offenses in the league this season. Definitely a top 10 offense. So the Astros, as we knew coming into the year, have their hands full. So we'll see if they can come out on top against Toronto, maybe win 2 out of 3, really spark a potential matchup with the Rangers coming up over the weekend, and also just to get the Astros some hope and some life into their season. So with Toronto coming into town, it's another tough matchup. And then, as I said, they got the Rangers over the weekend. So as we've known, the Astros have their handful coming in at the start of this 2024 season. They've got a lot of work to do. They put themselves in a hole, but guess what? Like I've said, 158 games remain. A lot can happen. So we're hoping, as I am an Astro fan, to the rest of you Astros fans, hopefully watching this video, the season is not over. If you need to hear it again, I'll say it one more time. The season's not over. Don't panic. A long way to go. To wrap up the latest edition of Clark Crawford Sports, Thanks to all of you who support my channel. Please don't forget to like my videos. And if you aren't already, subscribe to my channel. And I'll see all of you in my next video.